Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another session of dtalks, that is, Disruptive Talks on Education. And I'm your host, Anupama. Today, we have amongst us a true visionary, and her vision of education has reached one of the most remotest area on this earth, that is the Amazon in Brazil. So, welcome aboard, Sylvia and her colleague, Thaisa. Welcome to the dtalks. So, as I said, that Sylvia has, who's the president of Vagalume, has empowered children living in the rural, remote communities of the Amazon by promoting reading and management of community libraries as a space of knowledge sharing. Sylvia Guimaraes was born and raised in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and is one of the co-founders and president of Vagalume, the director of community engagement at Avenues, Sao Paulo, and she holds a bachelor degree in history from the University of Sao Paulo and always has been interested in the Amazon and in promoting education. With her outstanding pedagogical skills and creativity, Sylvia created Vagalume's methodologies, and Sylvia is a part of networks related to education and the social sector, such as Avena Leaders, Intercultural Leaders, Folha Network of Social Entrepreneurs, and Vital Voices Global Partnership. Born in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the historian and educator Sylvia Guimaraes, 39, has been the head of Vagalume Association since the beginning in 2001. And upon graduating from the University of Sao Paulo, Sylvia and her two friends founded Vagalume Association and set off with a lofty goal of building libraries in 26 different communities in the Amazon. In a trip that almost took 2 years, Vagalume transferred knowledge by training literacy coaches and reading mediators, as well as physically creating the space and bringing a curated selection of books and activities. In most of these initial communities contemplated, Vagalume brought the only library for miles. So, welcome aboard. Welcome again, Sylvia. Now, it is such a pleasure to have you over on dtalks. And here I would like to know, first of all, the very obvious question, why the name Vagalume?
Hello, everyone. It's morning in Brazil, so good morning. I know it's afternoon in India, so it's really nice to be speaking to such an audience, a global audience. Well, thank you for the invitation. And to start, Vagalume is the Portuguese word for firefly or the lightning bug. You know, this bug with this light. And to be honest, we were Maria Teresa, Laís, and we were the three co-founders of Vagalume. We were really young, like 22, 23. We had this dream to do something bold and to do a project in the deep Brazil, in the Amazon region. And we knew what we wanted to do. And one day we sat down to brainstorm and we started saying names. We thought about the children. We thought about names that children would identify with. So we just started to think about different names. And I think Laís or Fofa, someone said, Vagalume, the lightning bug. And then we said, that's it. Because we thought that the lightning bugs are only seen in rural areas, and that's exactly where we wanted to go. And also, they are small, like we are. We can't do much, but if we get together with all of our collective small lights, then we can do a lot. So we liked just the image of the lightning bugs, the fireflies. We saw ourselves as, you know, little bugs trying to bring some light in terms of knowledge, of our own knowledge that we were searching for, the knowledge of our own country, the knowledge of our own culture. And we just thought that children would like the name. And indeed, it's really cute when you go to the communities and then children, they are like, Vagalume, they scream all together the name, and they really identify themselves with this image of the fireflies.
How brilliant, how beautiful. The concept itself is amazing, and how you are lighting up the lives of all those people there, all those less fortunate ones in that Amazon forest and the Amazon belt in Brazil. It is really, really noble with the kind of work you are doing. So, my next question to you would be that how did you think about setting up these libraries, and what has been your experience related to like who funds them, and how do you motivate these communities to work hard on these libraries, and how do you put them together, and how does this whole process happen?
Well, to be honest, in the beginning, as I said, the project is now 20 years old. It's an NGO. But on the beginning, we didn't have this long-term view. We just knew in our hearts. Sometimes you just feel the mission, right? You just feel the call to do something, and you don't have the whole vision of what it will be in the future at the beginning. You just follow this call from your heart. So in the beginning, we thought about the basics to set up a library. So of course we did a lot of work in curating the literature books. We made sure we were bringing great literature, diverse literature from all over the world. With, you know, we feel that literature is a human right. So every child should be able to be exposed to all the stories humankind have been telling, since the remote times. I think stories are a way that humans find to educate and to explain the world, and to bring some difficult concepts of life, like death or like loss, or even nice concepts like love, to bring them, to introduce them to children. So we feel stories can be a good caretaker for children's. So we made sure we had a great collection of books for each of the places we wanted to establish this library, or this seed of what would become community library. So of course books are important, and quality literature, illustrated books that would call the attention of children, quality material, are really important, because they translate how you see the people. So if you think people can, any books are fine, no, we want to make sure they have access to the best editing material that we can find. So we made sure we would have a great collections, actually 20 collections, because for the beginning we established 20 libraries. And then the next piece, which is fundamental, is training. Is you don't throw a material into a community. You have to make sure this material has been properly introduced, and that people also have can share their experiences with literature, with books, with literacy. And so we did this plan. We called it the Vaga Lume expedition. So it was, we were actually for 1 year in the forest in the Amazon, traveling around and making sure each book collection was being delivered with a course, with a training program, where we would train local teachers on reading aloud to kids, the importance of reading aloud, some key concepts, but mainly we would make sure there was space to hear them, to listen to them, and to their previous experiences with their own literacy processes, which sometimes is traumatizing for some teachers, some adults who live in remote areas. They had to struggle a lot to get their education. So it's important that educators can also talk about it, and can feel part of the process. So we made sure there was the book collections, the training piece, and then the last piece we also had from the beginning was to make sure that this was a community library. So it wasn't our library or the project library, it is their library. So we had also a special time to discuss with the whole community, with other adults that are outside school and teenagers, where would they establish this small library, how would they take care of it, which rules did they want to make sure were in place. And so this was an important piece to build ownership, and that's key for the sustainability of the project, is that people feel it's their project, it's not our project. We're just planting the seed, but it's, if you don't water your seed, or if you don't take care of it, it will never flourish. So that's mostly they have to be acknowledged, all these communities, for taking the responsibility and ownership for the libraries and making sure alive 20 years later. It's a lot of work of people on the ground. So these were the key components in the beginning. And then from the beginning, we also realized that we were bringing books, but there is a lot of oral literature, right? There is a lot of stories, a lot of people who are illiterate. They are also wise in so many ways, and they have lots of knowledge to share. So we ended up realizing we had to make sure that this local stories and this local wisdom was also represented in the library. So we created a new part of writing local books and making sure that the local people, especially the old ones, are valued in these libraries. So that's the basics of the methodology we ended up creating as we were building this project.
So beautifully put. And it's absolutely brilliant the way you put it, that the ownership has to be taken by the community, by the people themselves. And the only way to do is that make them involved, to make them feel that, how their wisdom can be taken to the children. It is so amazing. It is the string which basically joins generations. And that is, I think, the first part to transforming education and literacy. And your perspectives on this is on Vaga Lume. It's so brilliant. It is so amazing. So how was the method? How did you go about motivating the mediators, the reading mediators? I'm sure, yes, the community took the ownership because it was their children, it was their people, it was about their culture, and even the books, like you said, were based on their wisdom. So how did you basically, inspired the reading mediators? How did you inspire these young people to come and work with you?
I think this is a long-term process. Sometimes we want our projects to have fast results. Of course, we want to see the results as fast as we can, but change takes time. So I think we were learning as we were doing that we had to nurture this leaders that we found in our first interactions. And it was clear to us that a few people, we would get together like 20 rural teachers, and it was clear to us that a few people among those 20 had the potential and had the interest in becoming even trainers themselves. They were so passionate about having contact with books, about being able to read aloud to kids. And so we saw the potential of not only training a few people to be the owners of the library, but also empowering them to go to the next level and become trainers themselves and expand this vision to neighboring communities. So as we grew, we created this network of reading mediators from different communities. We would find the funding to get them together. And this togetherness itself brings a lot of strength to the project. So just by being together, people from different parts of the Amazon who wouldn't see themselves as a network before because they were just isolated in different areas, when they got together, when we started getting them together, they became stronger. and then they could go back to their villages, go back to their communities, and provide the next step for the library, which is engaging more people and also engaging the teenagers. Because what is great about working with literacy is that once you break the cycle, like once you empower these adults, then they start reading aloud to kids, then these kids, they grow very fast and they become the next generation of readers, because it's something that children mimic, right? If they had someone reading aloud to them, it's a pleasure for them to read aloud to someone else, to the little ones. So I think we made sure that we were valuing these local leaders, that we were making sure that they had the opportunities to go to the next level of their intervention, of their leadership. And just by doing that, just by giving them the stage and by trusting their potential, they did the magic, right? So they were engaging more and more people. And then it's very powerful, because then you have local voices who are owners of the project, and they can take this engagement really to the next level. So I think we were just inspired by people's strengths. I usually say the Amazon, people I met in the Amazon, it's a very generous area, because people were so open to our training. Sometimes I live in Sao Paulo, and I am from Sao Paulo. It's a big city, as big as, Mumbai and, the Kolkata, these big cities in India. And sometimes working in communities in big cities, you find people are tired, tired of new projects, tired of new ideas. They don't have that much hope anymore, just because the challenges are so overwhelming in a big city. But we found that in rural areas, people were more open, and they had this generosity, of giving back, so we were actually very, very, lucky and blessed by having this amazing audience who really embraced the challenge with us. And I think the only thing we did was make sure that this talents, that this amazing leaders had the space inside the project to grow and to advance.
Okay, wonderful. We have a question from our program director, Mr. Mashood Bhatt, who's asking you that, Sylvia, great to have you on Detox. And he says, how is Vagalume preserving the indigenous languages in Brazil?
Wow, that's such a nice question. Thank you for that. So that's a difficult one, because we only have our publishing sector, our books are, all of them basically are in Portuguese. So as you know, we have this colonization history here in Brazil, and the language of the colonizers, the Portuguese, is the language that is mainly spoken. But yes, we have more than 100 languages still alive in the indigenous communities in the Amazon. So what we did was, in many communities, they don't have their original languages alive anymore. So they see themselves as Brazilians and Portuguese speakers. So in those communities, we felt it was all right to bring only books only in Portuguese. But then we had this struggle with some communities that still have their own language and still have their own culture much alive. So we had to discuss with the leaders of different indigenous communities at some point if bringing books in Portuguese would empower them, or would make their culture weaker. And I think the only way to deal with this is to have an open conversation, is to give the room for local leaders to give to have their voice heard. And we made sure we were hearing them. And what we discovered was that although it's very important to push the market or the government to have more books in their local languages, they also want to have access to literacy in Portuguese, because that's the language that will empower them regarding their rights, regarding their comprehension of what's going on with their land or what's going on in society in general. So we still bring the Portuguese books collections to these communities, but we encourage even more in these communities that they write their own books. They're not like professionally edited books. We don't have a publishing house yet, perhaps one day, but we make sure that they have their own books, that their books are written in their own languages, and we make sure this conversation is open with these leaders, and that the library is something that is not like from the outside, but it's from their perspective. So in this indigenous communities, normally, as the school is a government entity, and in the school they have a lot of Portuguese, so they make sure the library is inside the school context, which in other communities it's not. Perhaps can be like really in the middle of the community, but in indigenous community, they found out it's important for them to teach their children that inside the school there is this library and these books. Also, they want to make a curation. They want to select some books. Some books, they said, bring some concepts of modern life, cities, or consumerism, or money, and they don't want those concepts. So it's up to the community actually to do like a second round of selection from the books we choose, we have a lot of criteria for diversity, for quality and all that, but still it's important that these books make sense for them. So when the collections arrive in these communities, they have a second look, they separate. If there's any book that there is a message or image that doesn't feel right for the community, they take this to the side. And so I think we didn't solve the problem of having books in local languages for all communities, because we don't have that publishing house, we don't have that size, we don't know all the language. We need perhaps one day to have that publishing house, and also anthropologists and linguists, people that can really write the books in their own language. We don't have it right now, but we make sure we're always paying attention to that. And always the idea of literacy is to empower people, is not to take away their roots or to colonize once again, which was already done, right? So I think when your intention is really clear and when your purpose is really clear, it's possible to bring the benefits and also be very intentional and take care of the risks and be aware of the risks of oppression once again, right? Because there is this risk, as we all know. Hi, Anupama. I think you were. Well, okay, I can tell more about Vaga Lume, because I think our connection is not so good. So for those of you who are listening, I think that the most important lesson we have learned in these 20 years is that if you wanna change, it takes a village to take care of one child, right? So if you wanna provide a meaningful project to any community, you have to always revisit your intentions, and you have to make sure you're not alone. You're not a visionary. Nobody has this power of like being a visionary and doing something and changing things. It's always about collective effort, and it's always about having a chain of people providing new opportunities for children. So at Vaga Lume, we learned to make sure that there is a team in our nonprofit, and that this team is engaged. It's that this team is working for a purpose, and then the volunteers who are the reading mediators in the Amazon, that they are valued, that they have a voice. They are not part of the process; they are the heart of the process. And so I think that's that's something you learn after 20 years, is that you have to make sure you're not, sometimes when we start things, you have a vision, you want to get there, but if you don't bring people along, or if you don't open your vision to everyone's contribution or to everyone's ownership, then you're not getting anywhere. So it's I had many lessons, many leadership lessons that I learned the hard way sometimes, and sometimes the good way, the easy way, which is you have to make sure you share your vision, but then it's about everybody together. And if you don't create the spaces for everybody to have a room and everybody to have a voice, you will not get to where your vision is showing to this direction. So I think it's about being able to be humble and to learn from your own experiences on how change is only possible when it's collective, when it's a group of people wanting to provide more opportunities for children. Hi, Anupama. I think you fell. Your connection was cut off.
Some glitch, but I'm back now. So I'm sorry for this. And so it is really amazing about your journey, and what else would you like to share with us in this journey, and what are your future plans, and do you anytime in future want to digitalize these libraries?
Yes, that's a great question also. Thank you for that. We are, as you might imagine, we don't have much access to internet in the Amazon yet. So there is access in big cities, in big towns inside the region, but not in rural communities. Right now, in some places, there is the mobile signal, which allows people to use their telephones, but it's very unstable, and it's not the connection we were hoping to provide. So we are doing a pilot program in 2 libraries in the state of Amazonas in Brazil. We partnered with a local company, a local retail company who was in this town, providing internet access to like an open signal to the public spaces. And then we partnered to bring this signal, but there's like an infrastructure work, and then the hardware, the infrastructure is necessary, and then the soft skills as well, because you have to make sure the community is wanting this connection and is ready for it. And so it's nice because then the library is the center of the internet signal. So that's important, because then we add a new value to the library space, and the books are still there. We consider as a very important practice for children to always have access to published books, to physical books. Babies, early years, they interact with the stories in such an important way, and adults reading aloud to kids and all that. But yes, we are trying to make sure that this library is seen as a center of knowledge, of access to information, access to networks, access to rights, access to more. So I think it would be ideal that the internet arrives in such places with a purpose, or together with a learning center, because then we know that internet is basically about anything. But if you put it in this place of knowledge and learning and growing, then we can make sure we are there to clarify a few things about the dangers of the internet also. And yes, we are happy to see that we are moving forward with these 2 pilots, and hopefully we will expand that to the other libraries, because we have right now 82 libraries are functioning, and so there's a lot of work to do to expand this solution to other libraries, but we are hoping to get there anytime soon.
Awesome. That's really brilliant. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, no, I think I just want to share that everybody that is engaged in literacy should never give up. Sometimes it's not, yeah, it's not a straight path. It's not a straight road. It's not an easy path as well. But we just have to be resilient and patient, because it might seem like a long journey, but actually kids grow so fast. And after 20 years, all the kids, there are some kids that were born that were like, I have pictures, they were the little ones inside the libraries with, just crawling around, and now they are the leaders, now they are the teenagers, now they are making sure the new little ones have the same opportunity as they had. And so just I think my message is for all of us who understand how literacy is a right, is a human right, and how every child should have this right, is that we don't give up, and that you find your peers. They are out there. We are many educators around the world who care about that. So you eventually find your peers, and eventually these children that you were investing today, you're taking care of them today, they will take the challenge for the future. They will take the heavy load out of your shoulders, and they will carry it on for the next generation. So I would just this encouragement words for everyone who does the work on the ground, which is where transformation occurs.
Yeah, beautiful, very beautiful. So, to sum it all up, Vagalume is started from a local interest to guaranteeing the ownership of projects by the communities, and how you are carrying the wisdom of the elders to the children, and your books, which are the center of everything, are saying it all for you, and how you have, taken care of the cultural diversity, acknowledge the differences and the similarities, and improve the coexistence in the plural world. So, and how you're building bridges between people, communities, generations, and different types of knowledge. It has absolutely been so precious to talk to you and have you over on the show. And we'll be really looking forward to having more of you on our sessions later on. And I don't know if anybody else would like to ask any question, or Thaisa has anything else to say.
Well, I just want to say that I think it's so powerful to imagine different communities around the world. I just had this image now in my mind. Rural communities in India, in the Amazon, in different parts of the globe, be able to exchange, being able to, I don't know, to just to nurture each other. Perhaps the future is bright, and these networks of community libraries can grow and can connect, and that would be awesome to now that Vagalume is 20 years, also think of possible international connections for the libraries, because I know everybody cares. People who are outside Brazil, they see some news of the forest in fire. It's really heartbreaking for us here. That's why we started the project, actually, because we wanted to be able to do something for the environment and for the people living out there, and to be part of this struggle together. So I know more people feel like that around the world. More people feel touched by some devastating images, and yeah, perhaps we can make this transformational chain even larger one day. So it's very nice to be able to create some global connections at this point. And thank you for the invitation. I think Anupama's connection is has cut off again. So if I don't know if I can see the questions, if there's a chat, but if anyone wants to ask a question, you can also always write to Vaga Lume. Let me see. Community engagement is so important for literacy mission. How are you popularizing it among community? That's a great question. So, sorry, I don't know the name of the person who wrote this question, but thank you for the question. So I started Vaga Lume, and 3 years ago I was invited to bring this community engagement, this idea of engaging communities, also to a private school, a private international school in Sao Paulo, to think of ways that children who are in schools, sometimes in wealthy schools, that everybody can engage. So in the communities in the Amazon, the young people, they engage with the libraries, they are volunteers, they help clean up the libraries, they help read aloud to other children, they help plan events and all that. And I have been trying to work also the last 3 years on this topic of how can all schools, how can other schools, public schools, private schools in urban center, how can they engage into meaningful work? So I think this piece of the field of education is pretty new. Some schools have some service programs where kids go and do some service work, but it's it differs from one school to another. It's not a solid curriculum, I would say, nowadays in schools in general. And I would like more young people to be able to engage in meaningful work while they are in school. Why not? When they are learning, when they are growing when they're becoming who they are, right? That they can have the opportunity to engage in service and in meaningful work at a young age. So that's how I see community engagement nowadays, is us trying to create opportunity, not only in the community libraries in the Amazon, but in any schools. Like, how can we create more opportunity for young people to engage in meaningful, transforming work as soon as they can? Because those skills are going to be necessary, each day more necessary, because after they graduate, nowadays, like, it's only after they graduate university that they start really entering the real world challenges. And why not bring this opportunity to a younger age? Why don't we create more opportunities inside schools for children to read aloud to others, or to go and do some campaigns, or to go and take care of the public parks, or to take care of other libraries? Or, there are so many things children can do, and they learn so much, and the skills they get from this type of interaction with different communities will be very necessary for their future as citizens and as citizens, because we're all connected now, right? So yes, I think that's what I have to say about my work with community engagement. And I think it's a new field to be discovered yet. Like the various programs we can have for community engagement for young people are still to be developed, and we need more educators to jump on this boat together and explore the connections to curriculum. And we have to change so many things in education to be able to value this type of work, even assessment. Like, today, children are valued for their grades, but why can't we also value them for their engagement, for their desire to be part of something larger, for their resilience of trying something? So I think there are many things to be still discovered and learned on this field of community engagement and engaging school communities and doing good for the world. So yes, I really appreciated someone dropping a question on the chat. Is there any other question?
Yeah, so I think that's about it. Thank you so much for enlightening us here. Thank you. And it has been a pleasure meeting you and pleasure listening to your ideas and your journey at Vagalume. Thank you, everybody. And we wish all the best to Sylvia and her team for getting forward and educating more and more children and getting on so successfully in their journey. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a nice evening in India or day in Brazil. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cheryl, so much for sharing your insight.